Welcome back. Here with us on Closing Bell, and the sector in focus today surely has been auto. Now, the Auto Dealer Association has indicated that two-wheeler sales have been weak this Navratri, but the silver lining is that it seems that four-wheelers, passenger vehicles, have at least done better. Let's bring in Sonia to understand the trends. The stock prices surely are reflecting lots of disappointment today, Sonia.
Well, they are. So, through the day, we've been speaking to a lot of industry players, and they indicate that up until now in this festive season, the two-wheeler sales have been a bit challenging, while the passenger vehicle sales have been quite good. In fact, we spoke to a lot of dealers who indicate that there could be a 15% fall in two-wheeler sales in this Navratri, the Dussehra period, compared to what we saw same time last year. Now, the reason for that is that, the cost of vehicles has gone up quite a bit. There's a 30% rise that we've seen in the average cost of a two-wheeler, and that has dampened demand sentiment quite a bit. In fact, some industry players told us that within two-wheelers, you've seen a demand drop is higher in mopeds and gearless scooters. Now, we reached out to two of the biggest players. Bajaj Auto told us that FADA, that's the Federation of Automobile Dealers, indicating that there's a slowdown in two-wheelers is accurate data. They say that domestic motorcycle sales have been flat this Navratri compared to what we've seen last year. Particularly in the 100cc segment, the sales are down about 30%, while in segments, in the premium segment, the Pulsar segment has done quite well for Bajaj Auto. They say exports have also been extremely strong this time around, but it's the 100cc segment that is a bit under pressure. Also, Rajiv Bajaj did tell us that post-festive season is when he expects the demand slump, to really kick in, and that's what's causing a bit of anxiety over there. We also reached out to the management of Hero MotoCorp. Sources at Hero MotoCorp told CNBC TV 18 that at the retail level, Hero MotoCorp is witnessing strong customer demand across categories. The premium, executive, entry level and the scooter segment is doing quite well. It is because of pent-up demand and a pickup in personal mobility, and the inventory levels are also quite stable. So, of course, mixed opinion coming in, but the overarching view is that in the two-wheeler space, sales are a bit challenging this festive period compared to what we saw last time around.
Okay, all right, Sonia, thanks very much. Deepak, straight over to you then. Is this a dip to be bought, or are these very serious fears, because this is supposed to be the best time to try and get that pent-up demand out, right?
To an extent, yes. I think this year has been a year of contradictions in terms of data. So what should have gone up at one time has not really moved. Certain other things have moved up despite being unseasonal. So I think a lot of the past trends have kind of been negated by whatever has happened in the last 6 or 8 months. So I would wait another 5 days. We will get actual sales data, at least dispatch data from all of the manufacturers directly. I actually expect Hero, and we own it, so I'm biased, to do better, because I expect the entry-level vehicles, where Hero is the strongest player, to have the maximum demand, because if there is any demand, it's going to be for personal mobility at the lowest end of the spectrum, because public transport has been affected. So Bajaj plays in a slightly higher end range. So they're much smaller in terms of sales of two-wheeler motorbikes. So their demand will obviously be a little more sluggish. So I expect Enfield, Royal Enfield, which is Eicher, and Bajaj to perform at a lower level than Hero. But we'll know the real numbers soon, and I believe going forward, rural demand will probably dictate how motorcycles and two-wheelers do. So I'm still holding. We're perhaps buying a little bit also. Still positive on the sector, at least for the midterm, that's the next 1.5 years.
Okay, Deepak, we will leave it there today. Thanks a lot for joining us. Now let's move on then. The market, by the way, is just recovering a little bit. I think partly also because Europe is also off the morning lows. If you see FTSE and CAC in particular, DAX is a market which is still showing some problems, but a couple of other markets have started to recover a little bit, though Dow Future is still down. But let's see. Amit Khurana is joining us, Head of Equities at Daulat Capital. Amit, good afternoon. So, I wanted your thoughts first on banks, because that is where we had the biggest selling pressure, but this month has seen a big comeback for big names like HDFC Bank, even HDFC from the financials. Your thoughts on how to approach this space incrementally?
Yeah, hi. Thank you for inviting me. I think there are two aspects to look at in the recent outperformance of banks. One related to the aggregate data that we're seeing on the economy, which is far more conducive and supportive of the uptick in valuations that we are currently witnessing. Across the board, we've seen a return to growth on YoY numbers for not many sectors, and much better stability in some of the key, macro aggregate numbers. So that's one. The second is the commentary from some of the initial earnings reports that we have seen have been also, I would say, more on the constructive side rather than concerning. Part of that was reflected in the run-up that we saw before the earnings kicked in, and I think it is only getting corroborated further with the lower than expected elevated trajectory of NPAs. It's not really working out to be that bad a scenario which was initially built into the valuations and the sentiment. So these two factors, I guess, are probably helping the banks to outperform. And I would not be surprised if this continues for the current quarter. I think with the clarity from the government on the interest waiver and a broader uptick in the economic activity that we are likely to witness, I would sense that banks could be in for some real, shall I say, surprise. I mean, so to say, the joker of the pack for the next couple of quarters. Now, there are two scenarios to build in. One, if this continues, they could really be big-time outperformers. But if we get to see an elevation of NPA levels somewhere around Q4 is what I would sense, and the market starts building that into the valuation, then you could see some corrections. At this stage, we have a more neutral mode on the sector per se for banks at large.
Okay. Typically we don't get into individual stocks, but this is sort of a sector, a market in itself. I'm talking about Reliance Industries, Amit. Good afternoon to you, first of all. Season's greetings and thank you for joining us. The selling that's been almost incessant on Reliance over the last 3-4 weeks, what do you make of it? How do you look at the stock at the current prices?
Thank you. So let us look at it in the context. Reliance formed a bottom at sub 900 and it went one way up relentlessly towards 2,300 levels. So it was a 2.5x move in a matter of 4.5-5 months. The latest correction that we see on Reliance, I see it more as a normalization of the trend. At a certain price, obviously, you will see some investors coming out and saying, okay, good enough money made, so let me book some tactical gains. I think that is exactly the situation we are going through Reliance. The structural story on Reliance remains extremely positive. In fact, the next 12 to 18 months, we believe that both the sectors, both the key drivers, telecom, wherein we are likely to see some price hikes coming in, and that will drive the operating leverage, as well as the retail business coming into a much better profitability scenario, will be supported with the valuations. But having said that, a fair part of that is captured, so there will be some tactical, sell-offs here and there. So somewhere closer to the levels that we are in, we are actually going to be more constructive in terms of adding to the positions there, rather than looking at a very aggressive sell-off from here onwards.
Okay, what about autos, Amit? You were just discussing that. This mixed bit of data. The four-wheeler data apparently is good, but two-wheeler is not. And it should defy the the normal wisdom. But how do you approach both four-wheelers and two-wheelers from here?
Well, that's exactly what has been coming out as a surprise to us also. I think the initial part of the unlock that we saw in the economy was a classic two-wheeler surge, which was expected because it was more rural-led rather than urban-led. As we got into the festival season, our channel checks are clearly suggesting the other way around now. We are seeing the urban unlock getting back the four-wheeler demand far better. In fact, the channel checks that we've done, we are probably looking at some record sales for Maruti in particular. And that probably is reflecting it much better. Two-wheelers, our senses has not really picked up as well in the current festival season. Maybe part of the reason being that the rural pent-up demand is probably satisfied to a large extent, and now the urban segment had to kick in, which unfortunately is not kicking in as well for two-wheelers, but it is definitely kicking in for the four-wheeler segment. And I guess it's probably a reflection of the buyer segmentation also, because the typical four-wheeler buyer will probably have better affordability, and their job scenario has not been as badly impacted as a typical two-wheeler buyer in an urban segment might be impacted at this time. So therefore, our take is that the next couple of quarters we would expect a better performance from four-wheelers versus two-wheelers in general.
Okay, Amit, we will have to wrap it up. Slight audio trouble today. It's not the best of lines that we have you on, so we'll have to keep it short for this time. But thank you for your time, and we hope to have a lengthier conversation next time. Well, on that note, we will take a very quick break, get back on the other side, and tell you what dealing rooms have been saying today. And we prep you up for tomorrow's major numbers. Bharti, Airtel, and Tata Motors are the big ones to watch out for. And not just that, last half hour coming up. So what are the trades to look at? We will get Mitesh and Ashwini back in.